So, we got my friend Adrienne.
Am I supposed to look at the camera ever or no?
Whenever, however, whatever.
Okay.
If you would, just introduce yourself to the camera. Kind of what's your name, where you're from.
I'm Adrienne Hollie. I'm from the Bay Area, California.
Awesome. So, on this episode of Creative Questions Podcast, we're going to be talking with Adrienne about the creative aspects of her life, what drew her into her career, and just see where it goes. So, where are you from originally? Like, what's the name of the town?
I was born in Oakland and raised in Hayward, California.
Wow. What was it like growing up in Oakland? Because you hear stories.
Listen, I didn't grow up in Oakland. That's the most Oakland part about me, is that I was born there.
You were born there,
yeah.
Okay.
Hayward is 20 minutes south of Oakland, 15 minutes south of Oakland. Like? This neighborhood that I was in, I mean, it was the suburbs. I don't have anything to compare it to because I lived in Hayward until I was 21.
Okay.
So I didn't move around as a kid. But suburbs, close to a lot of power. You were right in between Silicon Valley and San Jose and San Francisco and Napa, all of them like right there.
Yeah.
Rural.
What were you doing in your childhood that kind of steered you down a creative path? Like,
absolutely nothing.
Nothing?
No.
Really?
Yeah. My childhood sucked.
Okay.
I was not doing anything creative until mid-20s.
Mid-20s?
Yeah. I like childhood and like a young adolescence was just like survive.
Yeah.
Don't do anything special. What is life for? I don't know, but I was just put on this planet and I don't know what's going on.
So you hadn't really discovered yourself yet?
I hadn't discovered myself and I hadn't been taught that life is a gift that should be explored.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't taught about the arts, except enjoying them in the forms of like music. Mm-hmm. But other than that.
What were you listening to as a kid?
A lot of like everything from like Stevie Wonder to like smooth jazz and stuff like that. My mom's family is from New Orleans, so we listened to a lot of jazz.
Yeah.
And we would go camping like a few times a year, and it would just be like music for like 7 days straight.
So,
that's where I learned like good music.
And really got to experience the music.
Yeah.
Like being out there on a camping trip and Stevie Wonder playing in the distance or Ray Charles or whatever, like you get to explore the essence of how the music makes people feel.
Yeah, a lot of funk too.
Mm-hmm.
It was just cool. It was just, I grew up listening to it. I didn't realize that I was listening to the hits.
My first concert was George Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars.
Ah!
Yeah, his daughter came in here and got some ice cream and wore one of our T-shirts and gave us a shout out when they played at the Ogden.
That's cool.
It was really weird. I was in a bunch of trouble. I got locked up. And I was kind of on the end of a 3-year stint in jail as a teenager. And my mom had started dating somebody and he was like trying to crack it open with me. And he used to be like a drummer in a metal band. He knew I liked hip hop. And so to kind of mend fences and create a relationship, he got me a pass so I could leave the facility I was at. And he took me to George Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars. And like, it was cool because what that moment did for me was it introduced me to the idea that this is where hip hop came from, right? Like, a lot of the G-funk music, a lot of the 90s hip hop music was samples of funk music, and him taking me to that concert was like, oh, it was kind of overload, but it was a really dope gesture.
That's cool.
What was your first concert?
In Sync.
In Sync?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have In Sync. Look right here. We got New Kids on the Block.
Nice.
What drew you to In Sync?
I don't know. They were a hip boy band.
Yeah.
I still like some of their songs.
My wife, I think my wife took my daughter to NSYNC.
Really? They were still performing?
It was either NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. Whichever one.
Because NSYNC's been broken up.
Okay, maybe it was Backstreet Boys.
Maybe.
Whatever
they
one's
were
been
great
touring,
too.
Whatever one's been
98
touring
Degrees
recently.
and all those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did some camping trips. You discovered soul and some funk and different things.
Yeah.
You're going to school. You eventually go to college.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can be a creative person too. Or how did that realize itself or manifest itself in your world?
I was on a planning committee for 200-person church retreats when I was 16.
Okay.
I was a co-chair at one point, and we were planning like full-on 3-day retreats.
Wow. So you were organizing events way back then?
Yeah. I just fell into it.
Sure.
And I loved it. And then I remember I was like 17-ish, and then someone asked me if I do this for a living, and I was like, what the fuck? I can get paid to plan events?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? I didn't know this was a career. I was just like dicking around, you know?
Having fun with it.
Yeah, and being controlling and being like, I'm planning everything. And so I had no idea. And so I went to college for events. Mm-hmm. And then events like fueled something in me where I'm learning now that it was chaotic. And that's what I was just used to chaos. So I was like, this is exciting.
You knew what to do with
stuff's happening. And but I thought I was thriving in chaos, but really I was just like perpetuating more chaos. But I was good at existing in it, but I wasn't good at mitigating it. Okay. I was not good at calming the chaos.
Yeah.
So the events were going great. Clients were happy, but my teammates were like, this chick's crazy.
Yeah.
But then I graduated, and then I moved.
High school.
Graduated college.
High
school too.
Where'd you go to college?
Cal State Hayward.
Okay. Dope.
And then I moved to San Francisco like 6 months after that. Found a job, moved there. And that is where I started to like flourish. That's where I saw like what life could look like, just stuff I could do. I'm pretty risk averse, so I didn't get into like a ton of trouble, but that was where I was just like, I could do anything.
I feel like the Bay back then especially was a hub for like real creativity.
Yeah.
It still is to some degree. It's just so expensive, it's hard to enjoy it.
It's different. It's not the same.
But back then it was like some of my favorite graffiti artists, some of the dopest hip hop groups, a lot of, in my opinion, the essence of like 90s and 80s 2000s dope creativity was, the Bay was one of the epicenters.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It taught me how to be weird, or it allowed me to be weird and taught me what weird could look like. Like I did not realize until I moved to Denver that you should just show up wearing whatever you feel like, whenever you feel like it, because it's like, who cares? And it didn't dawn on me as an adult until I moved here that like, San Francisco is a place where you could literally show up looking however you want. And it's not in a bummy way, but like you can have style and people aren't like, why aren't you conforming?
Yeah, they're cool with it.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, honestly, as I get older, like I'm kind of subscribing more to that than anything else these days. Like I'm not really worried about externally what people think about me. I'm just kind of moving autonomously the way that I choose.
That's good.
Yeah. So you're in the Bay and you're letting your freak flag fly a little bit.
Yeah.
You're working.
Not a little bit. That was like my college experience. Yes, full on.
Where did you get employment from? Where were you throwing events fresh out of college?
I was the events director at a cocktail company. Mm-hmm. We threw. The owner was brilliant. We threw cocktail parties and taught people how to make, it was a team building company. We taught people how to make cocktails. We would show up in people's houses. We would show up to their businesses. It was before my time, but he did Mark Zuckerberg's wedding.
Wow.
Didn't realize what was happening. He just knew he was going to a private house and trained the staff on Larry Ellison's yacht. Like big Google was our main client, Yelp. Wow. Like every week we were at the Google headquarters. So that was all kinds of fun. But a super messy company, just all kinds of problems. But it was just chaos, but in the best way.
Yeah.
Very high functioning people with a ton of problems who did fantastic events.
And that's cool because that's where the most interesting versions of life exist. High performing people with lots of personal problems driving the background, and like they're just showing up and like shitting out amazing things essentially.
Yeah, but it was at a certain point that was where I realized that I should only care about a company as much as the owner does.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's wasted effort.
Mm-hmm.
I only put in as much effort as the owner and no more. Because I did that. I was like, trying to build with this person who's inconsistent.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, do you want to be inconsistent today? So will I.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tight.
Yeah. And then I also, in San Francisco, that's where I worked at my first nightclub.
Okay.
Planning events. I was the event coordinator.
Okay.
Assistant event coordinator. And
what nightclub?
Infusion Lounge.
Infusion?
Yeah. There were a few big nightclubs in San Francisco. That was one of the most well-known ones.
Oh, tight.
Yeah.
And did you enjoy the structure of throwing events at one spot consistently more than you liked kind of being rogue and throwing events at different places like Google and whatever?
I needed them both. I still do both. I still in Denver plan events at nightclubs.
Which do you enjoy though?
I have to have both.
Yeah.
The structure is really nice. Knowing the space I'm working in is nice. Like knowing where the outlets are, knowing what the capacity, knowing about.
There's a convenience to it.
Yes, just knowing the venue well. Nothing's a surprise versus having to. How many bartenders do you hire? What beverages do you have? How do we load in? All these questions that you have to ask when you're going on site. When can we? All kinds of shit. And can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Say whatever the fuck you want.
But it's also nice to have to figure it out. And so if I was always figuring it out, always traveling, I would get really burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
But if I always knew the venue and I was just all my events were in one spot, I would get bored.
Was it pretty early on that you realized creating events or organizing the events were a way to express yourself?
I liked being helpful.
Sure.
I liked the high intensity. I liked planning things behind the scenes. You say, I don't know that I feel it is creativity, but there are so many other more creative elements, I think, to events. Like
expressing yourself is just that, right? It's expressing yourself. And one of the ways that I recognize people are in their element or in their zone creating is when that Zen thing comes over them and they're just locked in and moving almost as though something else is happening, right? And I've seen that with you multiple times when you're throwing events or involved with an event that's being thrown. You might be a little awkward or standoffish or moving a certain way outside of all that, right? But then the moment the event clicks on, it's time to go, bop, 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 and you like kind of become this Zen person that's moving in tune with everything.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Time and time again, I've seen you exhibit that. For the time that I worked with you at the various nightclubs we used to do different things at, you would have the element of like stress and like friction maybe before and a little bit during, but I knew it was your sweet spot because I would see you transcend into something else, something that was flowing like a river, a stream, like a Zen, like it was that.
You taught me. I remember like 2 years ago, we were talking about, I don't know what we were talking about, events. And I asked you, what do I need to work on? And you were like, you need to chill out.
Chill the fuck out, bro.
And I was like, done. Okay, done. But the pre-production and load-in is stressful.
Sure.
Because you can't push the deadline. You can't hold the door.
Yeah.
Like you have clients and vendors and contracts and like all kinds of issues. that happen if we don't have our shit together. So it was like, haul ass, figure it out. I did not spend months convincing this client to choose us just for us to fuck it up because we needed an extra 10 minutes. Figure it out.
I know for me, I've thrown thousands of events over the years at this point, and there's always an anxiousness and a bit of stress. Usually I've organized it and I have some sort of monetary or personal investment in the event. And so there's a certain tension in me that exists until doors. Yeah. And then once doors hit,
it's smooth.
It comes, you jump into the flow of it all.
Yeah.
And the people that are good at it, that find it, and it's like a zen for them, they lock into the rhythm once they recognize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see that in you as well. I see like a kindred spirit when it comes to throwing events. Like you're much more type A and organized than I am. I'm a lot more chaotic and free flowing. But I sense that we both carry a certain level of tension and friction while planning and programming until we get to the moment. And then once it's go time, we're not worried about anything else on the planet. The only thing we're really thinking about is what's in front of us, and we're moving and grooving with the rhythm of that life in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that's how I knew it was like a special place for you and like where you were at like a peak creative place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've never considered, you have a point, but I've never considered my job to be creative. When I see artists performing live and I see these beautiful catering arrangements and I see the lighting and I see so many other things, decor, all these other things where I'm like, that's creative.
It's funny because behind the scenes, that artist is probably performing a pre-planned set over their own lyrics, or it's organized to a T. So it's almost like push and play because of whatever. And then the culinary person, this is a menu that they've organized to perfection and prepare it time and time and time and time again. And it's almost like the creativity
for them, it's
out of
cookie
it.
cutter. Yeah.
But at some point they were creative. Without getting like hokey or like religious, I believe I believe our purpose here is to create. Like why we came to this planet, what we're here to do when we wake up. How are we going to draw? How is the paintbrush going to unfold our day, right? When we're doing the things we're passionate about, how are we going to create that passion and express it to the world? Because everything we do is an expression to the things that we interact with, So that's my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried to be more mellow and enjoy the process more by you're right, I'm type A and I can be I see all the little things and I'm like, clients are going to be bothered by that. I'm going to fix it now. They're not going to like that. I'm going to fix it now. This could be a contract issue. They could dispute this. I'm going to hide this right now so that that everything's good.
Yeah.
And they don't dispute. They don't complain. Everything's great. They come back every year. But I've realized that in doing that, I'm positioning myself. I'm not protecting my team as much. I am, but they're seeing it as Adrienne won't shut the fuck up.
Sure.
Shit. So I realized, like, okay, what if they're not going to be bothered by that? What if I've just been assuming for decades? Because it would bother me. Mm-hmm. So why don't I just chill out?
Well, we learn though. We learn and we perfect the craft. And what was relevant 5 years ago, 10 years ago isn't as important now because we've changed and we've built on our creation of ourselves, right? Because we're evolving. Let's go back to the base. So you're working for that events company. You're also working at a club. You're kind of in this rhythm. Mm-hmm. What led you to Denver? Like how did you come to that decision?
I thought the world was too big to live in one place. Mm-hmm. And I was hearing good things about Denver. I also really wanted to move to Chicago, but I felt like that was too far. Too far from family and everyone I know.
Yeah.
and I'd never been to Denver. Didn't know anyone, didn't have a job, but it sounded cool. And I thought, worst case, I hate it and I move somewhere else,
back,
or I leave. Or, yeah, I moved back. And so I was like, okay, just try it out, see what happens. And so I was in San Francisco for like 6 years, and then I've been in Denver now 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Time to
so
go.
you literally just picked a place on the map? There was nothing else that drove you here?
No, I was hearing good things from other colleagues, and it was just like it kept getting. It felt like the universe kept like whispering Denver, and so I was like, okay. I felt like my personality type is too much like go go go, like do more all the time. And in San Francisco, you can never do enough. Yes, it's always, why aren't you doing more? And the people I was meeting in Denver and the things I was hearing were more about, like, they valued free time. And so I was like, okay, I could use more balance. Because it's hard to, I mean, you can tell yourself you're going to have balance, but if everyone around you is like, work more, it's impossible, you know?
So you're in the Bay. It's one of the epicenters of multiple industries. It's creative hub. It's technology. You got Napa Valley, all those things.
Yeah.
And then you land smack dab in the middle of what you thought was a city, but then you realize it's also kind of a cow town in a sense.
No.
That's how I see it.
Really?
Maybe it's because I've been here a long time. But what was your first thoughts?
I'm trying to think back.
Yeah. Where'd you move to first? What part of the city?
I was in South Denver.
South Denver?
Yeah, near Colorado and 25.
Oh yeah,
Kind of near the university.
I know that well.
Okay.
Over by DU and that Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, right over there.
What was that like?
It was fine. I feel like the first year was really just like figuring out what's what. Yeah. I told myself, I joined some meetups. I told myself, go to every single meetup group that everything you're invited to, you have to go to. You have to say yes, because there's going to be a day where you wish you had friends, but you didn't go to anything. So you don't have anyone. So it was about, when I moved here, I told myself, I made a budget, and I decided what amount of money I was okay dropping to before it was like, you just need to find any job. Doesn't matter. And until I got to that point, it was like, you cannot just choose a job, just choose a job.
Yeah.
So the first few months was looking for friends, and you need to get that?
No.
Okay. First few months was looking for friends and employment that I enjoyed. And so I went to every single event, and I ended up meeting some of my best friends within a month. Still best friends.
So to this day.
Learned what ultimate frisbee was.
Yeah.
Did not know that was a thing. Not good at it. Very fun.
We have a mutual friend that does frisbee golf.
Really?
Junior.
Okay. What a tank.
Competitively.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm glad he doesn't do ultimate frisbee. I'd be afraid of him on the field.
That'd be a lot.
Yeah. First year was nice. I'm not really one to complain about like not liking a spot. I've noticed that I tend to just be like, cool, this is cool, whatever. Yeah,
let's do it.
Cool.
Yeah. And so you eventually find your way to some clubs, and you start doing events for the clubs, but then you also start doing events kind of out of town and helping with other stuff. What led you to do that?
I had been doing that, even in San Francisco. I was, my territory out there was San Francisco and Napa and Sonoma. And so I was planning incentive travel, which is like when you have executives or your top sales reps who are flying out for a conference, and they're doing like extracurricular activities, golfing, spas, like excursions, private dinners, like VIP meet and greets, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The funnest one was at a winery, and I can't tell you who the client was, but they bought out the winery, and they wanted to get there by helicopter. Mm-hmm. And I convinced the winery to mow a section of their dead grass. It wasn't like the vineyard, but it was like a plot of land. Yeah. They mowed it for us so that we could land 5 helicopters on property. And then we did a VIP luncheon with top 5 biggest NFL stars of all time. I'm not going to say who.
Sure.
That's the kind of stuff I get to do. I just get to watch this. I'm like, this is awesome.
This is really cool.
This is super cool. So when I moved to Denver, then I started doing that all over the country. It's nice. Denver's right in the middle of everything. So I wasn't just doing it in San Francisco, Napa. I was doing it in Chicago, New Orleans, Boston.
Now you're kind of getting paid to see the world that you felt was too big for you to just sit in the Bay.
That's exactly why I did it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Vegas, just getting paid to just travel to these fantastic places.
Yeah. Do you plan to continue to expand on that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That I don't think that will ever change. Mm-hmm. I found myself enjoying more like larger programs, not the one-day turn and burn, but the things that, and not the things that take a few months to plan, but the things that take a year to plan. Yeah. That you're planning like 2 years out. I've done some of those, and those are really rewarding to work so long for something and then finally watch it come together and be exhausted.
That's amazing.
And to keep doing it. Those are great. I can see myself going more in that direction of just doing a lot more of those projects.
Yeah. What's still inspiring you right now in the event space?
Finding ways to convince people to spend money, to choose me, and to be happy with it.
Yeah. Like, is there a kind of event that you still want to do that you haven't done yet? I'm sure international would be cool to do.
It would be. They're such a pain in the ass, though. Mm-hmm. Even just like taxes and shipping are just like it's awful. Yeah. Just, yeah. No. Would I do it? Yeah. But it seems like a lot. Yeah. But that's why you have a team, and that's why you have vendors to do stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I've been curious about festivals. I used to do festivals. I was like VIP in media relations, like not on the planning team at all. Mm-hmm. But I would work right next to the head producer. Sure. So I kind of would overhear some stuff, and been curious about getting more into that, less into like one client, more into like you have 200,000 customers.
Yeah. So like maybe doing some stuff with a festival company.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. I get bored fast, and I do better work. I've noticed that if I change stuff up. So it's tiring to always be doing something different, always be learning something, but my work is better.
And I think that's the point, right? Like learning is growing and evolving whatever it is we're trying to create. If you just go and create the same thing over and over and over again, it becomes monotonous, right? It's like that we were talking about people that prepare food for events, like they've made that same setup 1,000 times, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're yearning to do something new. And so learning new things to then express it to the world is what it's about, essentially.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll be in Denver for 5 more years, or you think you're going to relocate? Are you looking at Chicago or New York or one of these other places?
I have a tendency to want to hop around too much, like time to move, time to do this. Oh, look, you just settled in and you have a stable community. Time to leave. And so I'm trying to not do that. Mm-hmm. I got the itch 3 years ago to go to Chicago, and I was like, just find work in Chicago, like find work in these other cities. Make Denver your hub. It's right in the middle. So I have no idea. I used to be like too spontaneous, very spontaneous. I wouldn't say too spontaneous, but like one time I just decided I feel like going to Europe. And so I just like told my boss, like, I'm leaving for July. And a week or two later, I was in Europe with no plans.
Yeah.
Like flew into Ireland. had a hotel for the first 3 nights, and the next 27 days, nothing booked. I just knew that at some point I had to get to Florence. My flight out was in Florence 27 days later. That was it.
You buy a train pass and do it up?
No, didn't even do that.
Did you fly everywhere?
No, not always. I went to Ireland. I took a train to, did I take a train to London? Is there a train to London? I don't know. I went to London.
It's probably a flight because Ireland's an island. But you could take a train from France to London.
I didn't do that.
When I used to tour as a musician, what we would do is we would look at the train route, and we would book events at venues based on the stops, right?
Okay.
And then we would reach out to promoters, and we would organize this whole tour on the train route, and we would buy like a 20-day pass or a 30-day pass, and we would tour we would tour the UK, we would tour all over Paris, all over the Netherlands, all over Germany, and just literally on the train. And a day here, 2 days there. And then occasionally, like, we might organize a portion of the tour to have we would put on one of the local guys as our driver and have them open each show and play cities that are kind of off the grid a little bit, if there was a demand. But yeah, Europe's fun. There's a lot of different ways you can do it.
Yeah, I was surprised at the cities. I had been there once before, but I had planned out my whole trip. I was also there for a month, and I had planned everything out. And then this time it was just like wing it.
That's dope.
It was great. But you can't do that through your whole life. You can't just wing it like that and be like, I'm going here now. I'm going here now. I mean, you can, but it's hard to be great in a city and be known as great and to do great things if you're building and then you're leaving once you're on a roll.
Built it.
Yeah.
I think, just from knowing you, it seems like you're such an organized person that randomly booking a trip to Europe with zero plan is almost necessary to relieve this like organized mind and just be like, fuck it, I'm gonna go.
Yeah. It absolutely was. In San Francisco, I used to, like, once a month, I would pack a bag in my car and just drive down the coast. And I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to end up. I don't know how long I'm going to be there, but I have 3 days.
When did you learn that about yourself? When did you discover that was an outlet or a way for you to relieve pressure?
I think it started out as like a toxic habit, like learning how to just like escapism, just learning how to just like dip out. I'm not dealing with this. I'm leaving.
I'm out.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the San Francisco, or the California coastline is beautiful. It's not hard to be like, I'm going to go do this.
Still a dream trip.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I mean, I've done it as a musician, but I want to, get a Sprinter or something and grab my wife and daughter and like do the coast like as a family. Yeah,
it's stunning, and it's so cool, especially to just have nowhere to be and then just all this coastline. It's stunning. As I get older, I mean, I have less time, which is a bummer, but I've tried to build a life that I don't need to escape from.
Yeah.
And so going on vacation is more of an exploration and a reward than I can't handle this, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm leaving for a month.
I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I did it. I got to explore, I don't know how many countries.
Yeah.
Just on my own, just backpacking, winging it.
Just doing it.
Yeah, it was great. But now I'm more like, okay, what's going on in your life that you feel like you need to fuck off to Europe leave the country spontaneously are you leaving spontaneously because you can and it sounds great, or are you leaving because something's stressing you out?
Do you see yourself exploring a path where you've thrown thousands of events at this point, you've done it all over the US, the highest of high level to like local whatever, you have a wealth of knowledge that could be aspirational and helpful to coming event coordinators, event producers? Do you see yourself organizing that information in a way that could impact people that are looking to grow and evolve in this industry?
Like a coaching program or training?
Coach, book, podcast. Like, could you see yourself doing something that is adjacent from throwing the event and a little more informative or instructive?
Sure.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm going to get old and I'm not going to be able to do all this shit. Like, I'm not going to be able to lift 50-pound boxes and run to the other side of a venue and like all kinds of stuff. At some point, I'm going to have, I think that I will love events forever. But at some point, I won't be able to do all that I'm doing.
Do it at the scale you're doing it presently.
So at some point, I'll have to pivot.
Well, I'm excited to learn and go through your instruction, right? As someone that produces events myself, like, I think we can always learn. So I hope that whatever that manifests as, it's something that happens sooner than later. Like, I think it would be helpful now just as much as it would be helpful then, right? For people that are aspirationally looking to do, like, you know, like you said, NFL players at random vineyards, all the way to producing crypto events in Denver, and so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
One day.
One day.
Yeah.
So this is my girl, Adrienne, Creative Questions Podcast. Boom.
Thanks, Tully.
Yeah.